All right, it is 4:30. We'll call the meeting to order, please. For public information, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is on the east wall of the Commissioner Room. Roll call, please.
Meyer,
Here.
Harris,
Here.
Knapper,
Here.
Reisig,
Here.
Blue,
Here.
Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, anybody have any changes to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Kelly, you have anything?
don't have
Board, anything? Not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda, please.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second. Any discussion? Call a roll? No, never mind. Don't call a roll. Wrong meeting. Record your votes. Couple of things I want to remind everybody of is when you are speaking, please lean forward and speak into the microphone so that everybody's able to hear within the audience, and it's picked up on the recorder.
Do we have a time limit for speaking or no? Is there normal, or do you just, how do you do it?
We can do that ourselves, whatever you want to do.
All right.
If you'd like one, that's fine. We can certainly do
No, I
that.
didn't know if you normally
Okay.
did, or we never discussed it before.
Actually, we have on big items where we have like a room full of people, and everybody wants to talk, and
Yeah.
then you get through everybody.
Sure,
I don't know that that's the issue, but we'll work on it.
okay.
I'll let everybody know that the board does reserve the right to enter into a closed session if we find it's necessary. There's nothing on the agenda tonight. Moving on, the consent agenda. Anybody like anything removed, please? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Record your votes. We need a motion to move into Board of Equalization, please.
I'll make a motion to move in the Board of Equalization.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Record your votes. Okay, first item on the Board of Equalization is to receive the tax list corrections. Everybody's had a chance to look those over. If you don't have any questions, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Don't be shy.
I'll move that we approve
Need
the
one.
tax list correction.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any
I've got it.
discussion? Record your votes. Okay, need a motion to come out of Board of Equalization, please.
I move that we move out of Board of Equalization.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Record your votes. All righty, Road and Bridge. Discuss, consider awarding of gravel bids. Good evening, sir.
Evening.
How are you?
Alright, so I've been here in place of Steve tonight since he couldn't make it. He had a superintendent's conference to go to. We're just pushing to request that all the gravel bids be accepted that we got. There should be bid tabulations that you guys got, I believe. We had two contractors bid us out gravel this year. Simon's, which was for the actual state spec 2A road gravel. And they come in at bid tabulation here, $13.90 a ton, which was, I believe, a 65-cent increase from last year per ton. And then we got bids from REM Screening. They do not offer the state spec gravel, but we all have a 1.5 minus that they're able to give us, which is just a screened gravel out of a pit. And depending on the pit location, they had 3 locations. There was $1 difference per ton from the web to the other 2 pits.
So you're asking us to approve both of them so that you can get it either place?
Yeah, because it's usually
Depending on
location
location.
and availability is
Yeah,
usually
location and mileage is gonna make the difference of whatever the price is.
correct.
And you agree with that, Russ?
Yeah, the state spec is more of a fine sandier mix, is it not? And that's
Yeah, they
more-
have a certain amount of fines they have to have in it and no more.
So that's used more for like over south Gearing and that heavier soils, south of Mitchell. The other stuff's got more rock, which will be a lot more useful on for road base.
Could I have a motion for approval, please?
I'd move we, accept the proposals from both companies so that we're able to use both.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Record your votes. Give it to you right now. How's that? Just in case something happens. One never knows. Here you go. You betcha. Okay, under general agenda items, discuss and confirm recommendation of the capital improvement grant for Five Rocks Amphitheater. Brenda?
Good evening. So during the last commissioner meeting, this agenda item was tabled. So since the city of Gearing has formally withdrawn their application and are no longer seeking funds at this time, we are asking that you untable the item and save further comment and discussion until the agenda item comes back up for approval. We do not have a new application from the city of Gearing, so we don't have a recommendation from the visitors committee this afternoon.
Okay. So the motion last meeting was to table. So I would consider a motion or ask for a motion that the item be taken off the agenda until it comes back to us on a formal,
Yes.
I just lost the word. Recommendation, put
Yes.
it that way. Okay,
If the application went away, there's really nothing there, is there?
well, we have to act, we tabled it. We
Correct.
tabled the item to this meeting.
But then it
To
went away.
take, to take action on whatever it
Have to
was that
act
it
on
was. So my suggestion would be is that we just move to remove it from the table and take no action. Otherwise, it stays on the table. Do it any way you want to.
Oh, I don't
Whatever-
know, I'm just-
However you would like to have it is fine.
No,
I'm just trying to follow the
I'm okay
procedures.
with either way. No, I just don't know if that's,
So how do we, I guess if we're gonna, do we deny the request? I mean, I guess I don't know what we're supposed to do.
The
Because
the request has been removed, so there's nothing to vote on.
that would be my point. I don't know that there's anything there.
There's nothing to take action on any longer. They removed their
They
request.
removed it. But at the last meeting, we still tabled it to this meeting, so.
Well, I didn't even know that it was necessarily this meeting. I was instructed to put
That's
it on
fine.
here, so.
So I was the one that tabled it, and from what I understand, I'm the one that has to put it back on the agenda. So, there was about a 9-day span I spent talking with, the Gearing, city administrator, the Scotts Bluff city manager, the Gearing city engineer, 3 different city council members from the, city of Gearing, and even my sister who has the mother of my ADA, special needs niece, talked to a lot of people about this over a 9-day period. And then I talked to Brenda about it on Wednesday morning of last week, and then I got to the point where I felt confident in the need to approve the funds, And then I think I let all of you know about 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. on Wednesday. You know, we all had, I had sent you guys individual text messages to let you know where I was in the process, and wanted to approve the funds, and then at 2:30 that afternoon, we got an email that said the city of Gearing wanted to withdraw their application with no explanation. So, you know, I really am just disappointed that, you know, the political process couldn't have played out. Communication was not something that was forthcoming. You know, I went to each of these people in Gearing, reached out to each of these people. No one ever reached out to me. So, you know, I'm just kind of disappointed that this is where we're at. I've had a couple conversations with the Gearing city manager and just said, you know, we would like to help in the future, and that's, I guess that's more of my feeling than the rest of the board's feeling, but I guess there's no action to be taken, so I guess we could have just removed it from the agenda before the meeting.
Was the motion to specifically put it off for 2 weeks?
No,
No, it was just an indefinite
That
table.
was just tabled.
I was told to put it on,
Where did that?
even after we got the withdrawal from the city, I was told to put it on,
No,
so I did.
I am certain I asked you to put this on the agenda before we got the withdrawal. The withdrawal came in at 2:30 p.m. I asked you to put it on the agenda about 11 a.m.
Well, and it was finalized by then too, so no matter what, either,
Okay.
you don't have to take action on it.
No, we don't have to do anything. The application's been withdrawn. There's nothing to take a vote on. So if that's your pleasure, we'll just move on. Okay, next item is discuss and consider recommendation of Housing Partners of Western Nebraska for the appointment of Hillary Wasserberger to the Housing Authority Board.
And that was just via this email.
Right,
Okay.
right. Anybody have any questions or anything about
I
that?
don't know her, but I guess.
Okay. what's that?
They're appointing her, I guess I don't know her, but that's fine with me.
She's been part of the, county attorney's office, I believe.
Oh, really?
No, where's she at? She's been with
I
the
re-
county
I
for a
recog-
while.
I'm sorry, I recognize her name is all.
Yeah, I think she was here doing some grants work and that sort of thing, maybe years ago, I don't know. What's that?
Yeah, I think he's
It
thinking
is.
Tiffany, but what are you saying,
Tiffany.
Kurt?
Tiffany was with. Okay, I'm
That's
sorry,
what it
what?
says here, yeah.
She runs the Doves program.
Hillary does or Tiffany does?
Hillary does.
Hillary.
Hillary, okay. Okay. All right,
I'd make a motion to accept her for the housing authority.
we have a motion for acceptance. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Record your votes. There you go, thank you. Next time, discuss and appoint alternates to various boards and agencies. I didn't realize it until I sat down tonight and started marking them. Most of our boards don't have an alternate.
Really?
Yeah, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of all of these that have alternates.
I didn't know that.
I thought there was, but
Well, that's a good
I was-
catch, and we need to do that.
I was wrong. I was wrong. If you want to take time and look at these, and we can do it maybe next meeting
Okay.
and decide which ones you'd like to be the alternate for.
It
rather
might
than
have to
take-
be the meeting after that.
Okay. It's
First
not,
July.
it's not an emergency. It's just what it is. And if necessary, we could even call another board member and ask them to attend in our place if we know that we can't be there for something. So why don't everybody take your list home, look at those that you think you might want to be an alternate for. We've not really used them much at all, actually, but it's always good to have.
Yeah,
Okay?
okay,
All right, is that all right with everybody?
I think so.
Okay, then we'll move on. Next item, receive the resignation letter from Tim Newman, Region 22 Emergency Management Director. I think Tim is here somewhere. Where is he?
He's coming. You've already given me your answer.
You, you know what's coming, right, Tim?
I know.
Okay,
I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity
Take your time, buddy.
to be your emergency manager for the last 9.5 years. I think I've learned more from my time here than I have from any other segment of my career. I'm very proud of the mobile command unit that we've been able as a community to put together. You know, the actual vehicles belongs to the Forest Service, but there are certain fees involved in getting that here, and those fees were paid by the Scotts Bluff County Mutual Aid Association. The insurance every year is paid by Minatera-Melbeta Fire Department, and the equipment originally was cobbled together from the Scotts Bluff Fire Department mobile command trailer and the Sheriff's Department's old mobile command bus. Since then, we've upgraded it using reimbursement funds from NEMA due to the several deployments that we've used that on at the wildfires. We've probably put somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 in the vehicle. That were all money that came back to us for the use of the vehicle on large incidents. Secondly, I'm proud of the Homeland Security Grant Program and the fact that Region 22 has managed almost $3 million in the past 10 years of grant funds coming back to the Panhandle in response equipment, training, and exercises. And we've managed likely $4 to $5 million for all of the bomb squads in the state. We manage that out of the Region 22 office. I'm also proud of the response community that has come together to train and learn as a large team. Many places have an antagonistic relationship between fire departments or between fire departments and law enforcement. Their EMS agencies, their communication centers, and this area has very little of that. And I hope that I have played some small part in fostering those relationships. And finally, I'm proud that this community took in a Southern boy and allowed him to really feel like part of the community instead of feeling like an outsider. And I appreciate you all.
I had the opportunity to be on the committee that hired Tim. Other than his Southern accent and his lack of responsibility to be a Nebraska Cornhusker, which he's never really accepted, he came to the top very quickly with all the candidates and everybody that and we had good candidates, don't get me wrong, but he came to the top, and I'm reasonably sure, I'm not reasonably sure, I'm positive we made the right decision. I've had the opportunity to work with many directors of civil defense, clear back to there was a gentleman by the name of Smith who would have his paper delivered to the city hall because he thought the Soviet Union was stealing it off his front porch. But he was our civil defense director at that time, so I felt pretty secure in that. But worked with some good ones. But Tim, I'll tell you, I've seen you in action more than once, and I can't tell you how much Scotts Bluff County appreciates everything that you have done here in Scotts Bluff County. The grants that you've gone after, the office was in great hands the time that you were here. There was never a question when something happened that we knew Tim was there and Tim was in charge, and the job got done. The job got done, and again, I think I'm speaking for my fellow commissioners here and thanking you for your time here. You're never going to become a Husker. We know that. You're moving to Oklahoma. Is that what I heard?
Kansas.
Oh, Kansas. They still have a football team there?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I don't know, but anyway.
Still chance then, right?
What's that?
Still a chance.
There's still a chance, yeah. There's still a chance. But I'm guessing he's going to hang on to whatever Southern possum eating team that you went with down south. I don't know.
That's right.
Which is fine. That's okay. That's your prerogative, Tim. But we are going to miss you, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
You're going to do well. I know you are. One of the things when we interviewed Tim that I'll never forget when we were going over past experience, you know, we're kind of limited out here. We have fires, and we may have a flood once in a while, and maybe a tornado. Tim was through about anything other than an avalanche, I think. Any other disaster ever happened, Tim was part of it. Tim was part of it, and that's what brought him up to the beginning. We haven't had any avalanches yet, so we're still okay. But
Batting 1,000.
yeah, but Tim, thank you for your service, and we wish you well. Keep in touch, please. I'd like a picture of you in a Nebraska hat at some particular time if you ever decide to move that direction.
I sent you the picture of me on the 50-yard line at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, but you had free tickets and somebody drove you there. That's the only reason that you were there. Because I know you weren't going to spend any of your money to buy a ticket, so
You gotta have money to spend it, so.
I understand. So Tim, thank you. Good luck to you. And speaking from everybody in Scotts Bluff County, you did a great job for us. And I know you're going to do even better for the folks down in Kansas.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I
to
would
add?
like to thank Tim personally, and, you know, you've done a lot of good for the county, and another thing, you went above and beyond. I think the last year or 2 years, you built us a ham radio, backup system in case everything else failed, unless, you know, if it all went to pot, you set it up to where we could still communicate in some fashion, so.
I'm
will
really
that-
proud of those guys too.
Yeah, now, do you have those guys in place that somebody can work with them and move it forward, and continue with it?
Yeah. we're
Cause
good to go.
that was a good idea, so.
One of the things that we did quite some time ago was bring Tim an assistant. I met her for the first time at our meeting at the library. What was her name again? I'm sorry.
Ashley.
Ashley is very, very competent to step in and take over for Tim until a permanent one. So we can take official action on it at the next meeting. Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's the determination of the interlocal members, not yours. But you
Oh,
can,
okay. That's not
per the
ours.
interlocal agreement, they
Thank
will
you.
place the interim,
Okay.
and will
Very good.
interview for the new emergency manager.
Will they be meeting before the 20th when he's,
They meet Thursday.
okay, good.
Good
So
deal.
they'll
So
be
we'll
able
have
to do
we'll
that
have somebody in
officially.
place. Okay.
Yeah, and I
So-
am suggesting to them that Ashley take the.
Very
the
good.
interim, so.
Very good. Okay.
So,
Well, you stayed here long enough to get a new pickup.
Yeah.
that was also a good.
That was an accomplishment,
It
wasn't
was
it?
a good accomplishment.
Yeah.
yes.
Very good. Again, Tim, thank you. Good luck to you. And as I say, keep in touch with us if you would.
Thank you.
All right. I think he deserves a round of applause. Next item, discuss, consider the NERMA deductible options. Lisa?
I believe in your packets, you should have the letter from NERMA that came last Thursday. Okay, and part of will it be in the packets, Kelly?
We have the numbers, the letters in the,
A letter, I thought you were waiting,
I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's what came
the
today.
letters,
No, I thought
Email
that went
to
off
us.
in email. Anyway, we will,
yeah.
that was something different. That's okay. Anyway, I think I've got it out here. Can I switch?
Just as long as you help me remember to put it back for
I'll do my best. Okay. Insurance last year was $723,000. This year, $844,000. Went up roughly $121,000, a 16.8% increase. Ouch. But they did provide us some ways we could lower our insurance premium. But as in prior years, we've looked at this and the options aren't that much of a savings. So, I'm sorry, I can't pull it up quickly without, for some reason now I'm not even getting where I can sign on. Why? Maybe
Is
'cause
it
this-
on?
Maybe this computer's not on.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh, that's the reason. Okay, so there's 3 line items that can be reduced. The auto physical damage, when our cars are in wrecks, $39,941 is the premium. and it's $1,000 deductible. If we wanna change to a 2,500 deductible, the charge for insurance would be $36,067, and a $5,000 deductible would go down to $31,913. And I even can. And let's see, property buildings. We have a $2,500 deductible this year. Our charge right now is $364,000. We can change that to a $5,000 deductible or a $10,000 deductible. Anyway. I can't
If we
change.
change the deductible, what does the premium come down to?
The property from 364,000 to 331,000. That's for the 10,000. For the 5,000, it's $350,000.
It's not even a 10% reduction, then it's a 100% increase in the deductible.
Right. In past years, we have not taken the deductible changes. I know we talked about that when we had Nirma on the screens here last June, and they said, well, you had options, so I wanted to make sure you saw them ahead of time this time.
Seems like once you give those deductibles up, you never get them back again, you know, to me, whenever you've increased them, to get them back is really tough.
Well, I think you can, but then you're gonna pay more money for the actual premium if you change your deductible. Isn't that the option of the?
Yeah, well, it is, but just like there, if we'd have 2 claims, it'd be gone. I mean, if you go with the auto and you'd have 2 claims, it wouldn't justify it. And we have way more than 2 claims every year. I mean, I think staying with the lower deductible is probably to our advantage as many claims we actually have. We got a lot of
Very true.
exposure out there.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
And if-
generally speaking, in
Normally at the
the
airport.
private sector, we would be always looking at higher deductibles, but we get better discounts than this.
Right.
And, I thought the same thing last year, and I'm thinking the same thing this year, and that's that the reduction in premium is not enough to justify it.
No,
And
I
it,
agree.
just doesn't make sense, I don't think.
Absolutely.
But normally I'd be on the side of increasing those deductibles, but there's just not enough discount to warrant that.
nope.
Again, a couple accidents, one hailstorm, and you've already,
Just some minor fender benders, you know, we probably wouldn't qualify for half the repairs. I mean, if we
Right.
would increase that to 2,500, I don't know how we'd ever recapture any of that.
Okay.
and I don't like the fact
There,
that
I
it's
got it up on the screen.
a 16% increase, but
Are you gonna ask your normal question?
what's that?
When's enough enough?
Yeah, you know, but we're not the only ones that have been getting these insurance premium increases, all across the board, especially in property, and casualty, and even vehicles. It has went really crazy, and
Absolutely.
I don't,
And if you saw in I think I sent you what the spreadsheet numbers would be compared. Our largest increase is obviously property. Workers' comp is a big deal this year.
Well, that's what I was gonna mention is, this column's, a lot of these are taking, reductions. Besides auto and property, buildings and contents. Those, property, buildings and contents going up 56,700, auto going up 6,000, everything else is coming down considerably.
So I
3,000 on general liability, 17, almost 18,000 on law enforcement liability, 9,000 on auto liability. And workman's comp is up over $110,000.
57% of the
That is-
60.
That is nearly all of the increase that we're seeing is at workman's comp.
Yes.
So what happened to our modifier score there? Did our modifier go up? Our rating on workman's comp?
I can ask that question. They don't provide that to me, and I don't know that the letter itself dealt with that. So,
That
we've
would-
had some large claims.
Yeah, I think, you know, and ask, I guess, if there's any sort of safety courses we can put in place that would help bring that modifier number down, but that's gotta be not only the market, you know, changing the way it is, but it's got me believing that there has to be something else, like a large number of claims, or like you said, a couple large claims, that's hitting us in the pocket, and I think we need to get a better handle on what's happening with the claims process, and, I don't know if we need to have a couple executive sessions to go over
Yes.
what those kind of claims have looked like.
I
But I
have-
don't
I-
think this board's ever been made apprised
I've
of
never been
any
worried.
large workman comp claims or, but it's definitely something we need to be looking at. And, you know, if
not
safety
finding
and
those
wellness committees can put something together to help educate staff, that's, I think we need to head in that direction.
Well, I can tell you, when we bring it up in our safety committee meetings, which we do, and I know Kurt brings up that they have to go through some liability training every year. Nirma has talked to me about doing some defensive driving training here in the last few months. I mean, that's something that's come up, because we did have some claims, and not all of them are our fault, but
But don't we get an offset in the rating if we do those trainings?
That's just what I was gonna
Should.
ask.
Yeah,
no, we don't get an offsetting.
we need to look at
Great.
that.
Hopefully, we get an offset if we're safer.
If we're safer,
Yes.
oh yeah, I would agree.
If we're safer, we get an offset. And so whether we take training or no training or whatever, the savings is when we don't have claims.
I agree.
And then ultimately, that's a savings. I think the other thing that's important to note is that, again, we're a part owner in this
Of this.
insurance company.
That's what
And
you-
there's a potential of a rebate that comes back to us. This past year, we received, how much was it?
I'm gonna
Approximately
say about $50,000.
50,000, so it's not
30,
real
40,000.
substantial in the overall scheme of things, but certainly we're part owner in the company. And if the overall claims are down across all the counties, across all the users, then our refund may be bigger, so.
Could be, and I can tell you I ran a report today. For the last 2 years, Nirma's paid out $329,000 for work comp claims for us,
329?
over 2 years.
That they paid on our
On behalf of our employees. So,
Well, I'd say they're still on the good side of it. Looking at
Alright.
our rate here, so.
there you go. And I will be setting up the billing for the airport as well, so that they can take we're going to be smoothing into the airport situation. So, as their contracts come due, they'll start, what's the
I
word,
think the
triple net
first year's
leasing? 30%-ish of the
right now I
portion.
think we get 30,000 this year, is it right?
That's what I'm thinking they're going to be paying towards
Right.
this.
That's what.
That's a quick and dirty number, it's not exact.
No,
but-
but it's a start.
But as they redo their contracts, which they make contracts for like 4 years out, 8 years out.
And
they'll
worse.
Start siphoning those buildings off, but we'll still be responsible a portion of what's the basically what the public use areas. What's been established as public use at the airport.
So we're still working on all of that, right?
Yep, we pretty much have her ready to go, we just
Okay.
gotta get things finished up
Okay,
and get
so
it
what's your recommendation, Lisa?
that we pay the bill with the low deductibles.
Okay,
that
We're
we
gonna
did.
have 30,000 in the airport, that's gonna cut that down to 91,000, basically. It's still a big increase, but having that money offset sure gonna start helping. It's gonna be heading the right direction, and within the next 5 years, it should help in a big way.
Correct. It's
Was
the
there
right
some
direction.
kind of a, reduction as well if we pay it all up front? Or
No.
is that, there's no?
They,
so-
they would probably allow us to pay quarterly but there was no reduction
No, okay.
offered, no.
How are we paying it now, monthly?
We will pay the whole thing with the claims run in July. That's how we do it.
We pay it all at one time?
In the new budget year, yes, we do.
Well, you would think you would get a deduction of some sort on that big of a check, but maybe you're wrong. We usually pay ours in 2 or 3 payments.
Maybe it just doesn't
Right.
cost more if we
okay,
spread
do we
it
have a motion then, please?
guess I could ask the question, but we just haven't.
So the amount is 844,993, would that be correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I would move that we go with NERMA for our, insurance package in the amount of $844,993.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? If not, record your votes, please.
Sorry, Kelly. All right.
Are they all recorded, Kelly?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see it on the board up here, so I was,
Because I
Oh,
took it
'cause
off that
she's
board.
got the-
so it's
It's-
your
she's
fault then.
controlling
It's my
the board.
fault.
Okay, very good.
What's the next agenda topic? I think.
All
we're
right,
gonna
next
do
item is
claims run.
discuss, consider additional limited claims run,
Oh.
the week of June 24th.
At the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, it is a benefit for Scotts Bluff County to pay the last remaining health claims of the year. Because once we start coming back July 1, if you have a large claim, you have to start over that 60,000 stop loss figure again. So we wanna get as many of the claims, especially for some that are over $60,000 paid prior to June 30th, cause then our year starts over. So I'm asking for a special claims run, probably around the week, June 22nd. Am I thinking right? Or June 24th, June 25th. And we were talking limited because I was approached with, and I'm sure Kelly has too, there's people that are traveling this month that would like to get their claims in this budget year rather than next. Maybe any utilities or something, so get everything in their last budget that they've been
Okay.
planning for, so.
And you look them all over anyway, it's just a matter of doing it early is all, basically.
That's right.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
We've done this in the past, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We have.
I would move that we authorize, an additional, pay period approximately June 24th or whatever date works with the clerk.
So we'll need 3 signatures, is that how that works? Once we approve do they have to sign off on this at the,
If they
Never mind.
vote, if it passes today, we're good. We'll just do it.
Is there a second to the motion?
Okay. Great.
I'll second that.
Is there any other additional discussion? Record your votes. Okay, next item, discuss, consider, APHIS contract per email.
APHIS.
That's what I said.
And this, again, is just in the email from Matt to you.
Okay, anybody have any questions or concerns? I'll entertain a motion for approval of the contract.
I move that we approve the contract.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, so
Yes.
this is the one with the prairie dogs and
Right.
that, and that
Yes.
we've already decided that we can't afford to
Right.
do anything
To
but
not-
this.
Not ourselves, anyway,
Why
yeah.
is there not a dollar amount in this year? That I can see.
11,615.
It's on the
Is it on
last
there?
page.
Pardon me?
It's on the
On
back
the
of
last page, I think. Hopefully.
Okay. I didn't see that last
On the
page.
backside.
All right.
Any other discussion? Record your votes. Okay, next item, discuss and consider the action on the solar farm. The reason it's on the agenda, I was requested to put it on for discussion, clarification, from the, council and from the company, and if you want to open, Kyle?
Excuse me for just
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, I'm Kyle Long, a partner at Simmons Olson Law Firm here in Scotts Bluff, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Situla Energy Project. Situla and the Preston family implore you to reconsider the denial of the Situla Energy Project's conditional use permit through a motion to rescind. I acknowledge the potential reservations of the commissioners regarding renewable energy, but I urge you to assess this proposal from a standpoint of fiscal responsibility, economic opportunity, and strategic planning for our community's future. The Scituate Energy Project represents a unique chance for Scotts Bluff County's growth to secure substantial economic growth and stability. With an investment of $800 million, this project pledges to inject over $1.4 million annually into our local economy through the nameplate capacity tax alone. In these financially challenging times, this revenue stream could significantly support essential services, infrastructure upgrades, and provide tax relief to our citizens. Furthermore, supporting the Scituate Energy Project does not necessitate compromising our conservative values. While renewable energy may diverge from traditional energy sources, it provides an opportunity to diversify our energy portfolio and decrease our reliance on foreign sources. Embracing solar power empowers us to control our energy future, bolstering energy security and insulating our county from unpredictable global markets. Scituate's proposal reflected a commitment to responsible development and environmental stewardship. The project's design integrated advanced technological and best practices to minimize the environmental impact and preserve the natural beauty of our county, from wildlife protection measures to aesthetically pleasing landscaping. Scituate addressed all of those community concerns with diligence. Scituate demonstrated its commitment to the community by offering a road use agreement, ensuring the repair of any roads damaged during the construction and restoring them post-project. Additionally, in response to safety concerns for our first responders, Scituate and its partners have committed to developing the emergency response plan of industry-leading standards and providing local firefighters with all necessary training and equipment. The acceptance of screening and setback requirements proposed by the planning consultants, Marvin Planning Consultants, and the Planning Commission underscores Scituate's dedication to collaboration and compliance. The Scituate project complied with all zoning ordinances and has been transparent in addressing community inquiries, resulting in overwhelming support from the Planning Commission before it came to this body. Scituate agreed to pledge all financial security necessary to decommission the facility fully and restore the Preston's land to its pre-development condition. However, Scituate's hope is that this project will not be decommissioned in just 30 years, but would instead continue to operate for generations. I assume that Don and Jack signed into this project knowing that the project could outlive them. However, if this partnership is fruitful, our hope would be that we create a facility that outlives us all. Scituate has chosen to approach the commissioners tonight with a spirit of partnership, rather than litigation, rather than opposition. Scituate seeks to engage with this commission, to understand your concerns and explore potential solutions, emphasizing our commitment to the community collaboration and mutual benefit, and not to positional issues. In these uncertain times, it is crucial to seize opportunities for growth and innovation while remaining faithful to our principles. And the Scituate Energy Project embodies a convergence of economic prosperity, energy independence, and environmental responsibility, a vision that should resonate with all seeking better future for Scotts Bluff County and our residents. So in conclusion, I do ask, and my client asks, that the commissioners reconsider their decision and to deny the conditional use permit by rescinding that denial to allow us to reopen these negotiations and to try to address your concerns further and move forward. Let us lead by example, demonstrating that conservatism and progress can work in harmony to propel our community towards a brighter and more prosperous future. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Understanding that the only way that this can be rescinded, it has to be made by one of the three that voted against it. Either Mark or myself would not be able to bring that up, but that's why we're talking here this evening. Yeah, one of the other things that was brought to my attention was the maybe clarification on the reasons why the concerns were there. And to, again, I hate to keep using the word, but stay in the lane of a couple items that we need to consider as a county board. Whether or not who's gonna finance it is really not part of the conditional use. What's gonna happen to it in 30 years is not part of the conditional use. And those were the things that we were supposed to be considering. And I think it got way off track, but everybody has that option and the freedom to say and do what they want to do with it, which is what confused Stitchula some. And that's when they contacted myself and Mr. Long had contacted me for that. So go ahead if you're.
Well, first of all, I'd like to have Kyle acknowledge that you were not interrupted while you were at the podium tonight. The last meeting went down the tubes because of the interruptions that happened while this board was speaking. And if those interruptions had not happened, it would have been much more clear as to why I decided to vote to deny the permit. Yes, I brought up a lot of other issues that I have with the permit, but if you go back and watch the video, there is a specific item in the supplemental review by the consultants that we hired to review this, because we are not energy professionals. This company told us that utility scale solar power is not listed or defined in our current zoning regulations. It goes on to say that if it is not listed or defined, it is prohibited. That is a defining principle of zoning regulations. I've got a lot more to go on, but if someone else wants to jump in from now, that is the reason I denied the permit, and I will not be rescinding or making a motion to rescind. I've got 3 more pages to go through here, but I don't want to be interrupted, so if someone else has a point they want to make in the meantime, go ahead.
Okay, anybody?
Yeah, my biggest issue was the permit was made out in the wrong name. Should have been made out to a landowner. It should not have been made out to a contractor or an investor. The landowner is the one that is gonna save the tax liabilities, right? Isn't that what we're doing this for? Isn't that not why we're doing this?
I'm sorry, what was the
Isn't that why,
Right here.
I said, isn't that not why we're doing a conditional use, is so that we hold the grassland values where they are and build an industrial park on top of it?
No, the conditional use permit is because this is a special use of agricultural zone land. Actually, industrial use does not encompass, industrial nor commercial use encompass electrical generation utility. It's only proper on an ag land.
That's just what I said, but I said it the other way and you said it this way.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, so that we're holding the tax value of the land down to grassland values versus taxing it at industrial or commercial rates by using this. So we allow an industrial park on grass property.
I can't speak for the board on that, so.
Well, you ought to know what what the permit is about. If you want one, you ought to know what it's about.
Well, the conditional use permit is to ask to say, is this a proper use of the land? And to make sure that the appropriate steps are taken to protect the public's health, welfare, safety, and to make sure that the land is being used at the most appropriate terms. And so that's what the conditional use permit is. I don't view it necessarily as having a tax implication.
Well, that's what, if we didn't do this, basically we could charge whatever rate that it actually qualified for. Because you take NPBD's property, they're paying industrial rates. They're not getting grassland rates on these buildings and their buildings around, and their, what am I trying to say, that, you know, their power substations, they're paying industrial rates on all of that stuff. They're not exempt.
Doesn't the legislature dictate that? It's in the statute that the assessed value doesn't change with that.
I'm just defining what it is, I guess. I'm not arguing or anything. I'm just defining what I understand it to be. The other thing, like I said, the permit was filled out by a non-landowner of the state of Nebraska to qualify for a permit that says we're gonna keep your property taxes at a certain level.
And Commissioner Isaac, I understand that's been your position and your concern.
Okay.
I gave you what my read of the statute was. The county attorney gave his read of the statute at that time, that it's consistent, that there was nothing wrong. If the commissioners feel that that is improper and that is the issue, it would just simply be another reason. The Prestons spoke that evening in support of this, that they join into this, that they want this project. And if that is the main concern that you would have, is just simply that we don't have, that you would like to have the Prestons or the Preston Trust or whichever LLC it is.
Whoever owns the land is who needs, I don't care who, but I guarantee you, a California-based corporation does not own land in Nebraska, can't put their name on that permit on a tax.
Well, and we both disagree on that one, so we'll just,
That's fine.
and we will on that point. But
Okay.
if you want the landowner to join in officially into the application, if this were rescinded and referred back to planning, then at that point, we could amend that part of the application to make sure it's clear on the landowners. I've been told the Prestons are willing to join in formally into the conditional use permit application if that would alleviate the concerns. That's again why we're asking. That's why we're asking, rather than to go through everything and fight about
Well,
everything,
we
to rescind
don't-
and allow us to actually figure out what the issues are and fix them.
We're back to decommissioning is where I'm at now. Decommissioning is really important to me.
Absolutely.
We have 6 sugar factories that are non-decommissioned within 50-mile radius of my home. I've been told it would cost between $4 to $10 million to remove the asbestos out of those. 100 years ago, in 1924, when they were built, 22, 24, those factories were probably 813. Asbestos was not a bad product. I mean, they used it everywhere.
Yeah.
And now we've sat with those buildings probably have $2 million to $3 million worth of salvage in them, but it costs 5 or 6 to get to it.
Yeah.
And so here we sit, and I would like to protect the next generation with a decommissioning plan, and all the decommissioning plan would say is that the landowner will pledge their land if the contractor doesn't clean it up, if it is not put away, that the people, that the people don't have to pay for this thing, that the land will be pledged. And what it'll do, it'll never happen that way, but it would give the landowner enough incentive for him to write enough contract with enough teeth in it where they'll take care of it on the front end instead of dealing with the same thing we're dealing with these sugar factories. You got to look at, you're talking an $850 million project. These sugar factories altogether didn't cost that much money, and they're going to cost, $100 million to clean them up.
And I believe, Commissioner, that every time decommissioning issues were brought up and every time we were asked about a different program for decommissioning, the only answer we ever gave to planning and zoning or to others that brought a new path and a new way to do something, the only answer we ever gave was yes, we will agree.
You'll buy a bond.
What?
They would buy a bond. A bond is not going to cover that.
Right, but it was not only just simply one single bond. If we look at the statutes, currently, the bond is not required for 10 years after the facility. We agreed to have a bond in place upon, at the beginning of this project, to make sure a decommissioning bond was in place at the beginning of this project. Then, we were told that wasn't going to be enough. So we agreed to have an independent engineer, evaluate it every 5 years, and a new increase to that bond would be made every 5 years to make sure the amount of decommissioning was going to be covered. And it wasn't Situla that was going to be making the estimate, it was going to be a licensed Nebraska engineer at our expense to pay for the assessment, but to have that independent Nebraska engineer say, this is how much it's going to cost to decommission. We had the obligation to make sure that that bond was brought up immediately, and the most recent language that I had seen was actually very, very tough, in that as much as a 30-day discrepancy between the time of that report being issued and the failure to have the new bond amount secured and in place was going to result in a default, with the county entering and beginning to remove the physical structure. We have been asked, can we do it in a letter of credit? We said, yes, we could do it that way. We've been asked, can we do it as a bond? We said, yes, we could do it that way. Your own consultants were the ones who said we don't want an escrow. And so there was no cash escrow that was put up at that. And you also
We don't need a cash escrow. We just need a contract on the front end of this thing between the landowner and the investor that it will be done. And there's only one thing to back it up with, because a bond will fall out of bed and disappear. we need to tie it to the land, you guys need to tie it to the land, that it's right in the deed that it says that you will sell the land if the money isn't there at that time.
Can I ask a question? What, Russ, why do you believe that it would be the county's
It
responsibility to
isn't, I
clean it
didn't
up?
say it was, no,
Yeah.
you're totally, no, I don't want the county to have any part of it. We need to have the county put something in the front of this. What's our plan right now to clean up these 6 sugar factories? Well, 5 in Nebraska, and I'm talking about the one in Torrington. We have 5 in Nebraska. What's our plan? It's gonna cost, let's just say $6 million a unit, 30 million. Where are we gonna get that, and how are we gonna clean these sugar factories? They're sitting here, the windows are going out of them, the birds are flying through them, the wind's blowing that asbestos right through the windows every day. What's our plan? We don't have a plan. I want a plan. We're not doing this thing as far as my vote goes. I will not vote until we have a plan. I wanna see a way better plan than the sugar factory had.
Well, and I would also say, Commissioner Rice, that the reason that you use a surety bond is not because, it's not about the money at that point, it's that we are literally getting a contractual party to stand in the place to make sure the work is undertaken and done. And it's not just a lump of cash and saying, hey, you have to go find contractors to do this, that there's actually a party legally obligated to.
You know exactly how bonds work, the same as I do.
Right.
You have to have liquid quick. You've got to have the money right here.
Right.
The bond only guarantees that that money's gonna be there. Now, when that money disappears, they're not just gonna write a check for this whole thing and clean it up for you. You're gonna spend 9/10 of this money. They might come up with 10 or 15%, 20%, but they're not gonna come in and clean this up for you. It don't work that way.
And that's why we agreed to continue to adjust it.
Well, that's why we need to tie the land to it and let the landowner and that be negotiated with the contractor.
And even if the Prestons agreed to that, then you get $400,000 extra if you sell the land.
I don't know. That's today's price. I'm talking 30 years down the road. I'm
Right.
sure the land's the only thing that'll follow inflation and have any value in 30 years.
Well, we were going to follow inflation and make sure that the money was there every 5 years.
Who's going to require the presses to clean it up?
The deed would automatically, if it was in the deed correctly, the deed would do it automatically. We wouldn't have to even have a meeting. It would be right in the deed.
What ordinance do we have that would require the presses to clean that up?
That's what we don't have. That's what we need.
So that's the due process issue then.
Pardon?
So that would raise the due process issue then.
It's on.
To me,
Oh,
that
sorry.
is, one of the things that the conditional use permit, it would be one of the conditions. That's why we call it that. I believe it's called a conditional use permit because we're able to put conditions on it.
We talked about
Now-
the first meeting here.
Yeah, now, whether or not the best way to do it is to tie it to the land, do it with a bond, a security bond, a performance bond, or whatever else, I don't know that we can make that best decision. And the only way I would be interested, if we move any further on anything here, I want us to have our, legal representation here to help us through those decisions.
I agree.
Because I don't think we can make those,
We can.
and we would want someone with, we've had some people say that, the bonds won't work. We've had some people talk about some type of cash reserve and that possibly not working exactly. And we've talked about the land being the source that, guarantees, payment. But, I think it's, all of that would be best left to legal representation if we go any further. And, I'll just mention my 3 quick things on my mind, and that's, that if we go any further, we have legal representation at every meeting we have and every discussion we have about this.
Okay.
Number 2, decommissioning is an important thing for me. And the part about the emergency, agencies and personnel, that those are dealt with. And those are the 3 primary things on my list in the shortest form that I can give them to you.
Yeah.
There may end up being some others once discussion is had. I am concerned tonight that, we're here and, a lot of these people have been here. They've spoken about whether, some have been favorable to it, some have not. But I do know that one way or the other, we have to, make a decision and do something with it, because, it's not fair to these people to have to keep coming back to more meetings, and especially if it's to say, the same things. And, but those are my three primary issues as we move forward, but I never expected last meeting that we would be able to vote on it and that be, okay, we just now gave you full approval. I think it would have been, we would have had to, say we're giving our conditional approval once we get all the legal paperwork put together. Because, in my opinion, we're not gonna, we're not gonna decide all of that legal, jargon and all the rest of it. We're not gonna do that at a meeting here in an hour or 2 hours. That's gonna come from legal counsel that represents us, represents the county, so to speak. And, so, that's just some thoughts I had.
The biggest thing that I ask is that we look at what those conditional use items are that we have the authority to impose upon a landowner. And I don't know that we did that. I think we looked at those and then we added some of our own. Whether they meet the requirement, whether they're even legal to do, I don't have any idea. But there are certain items in a conditional use permit that you have the authority to ask for, whether it be the road repair or some of the things that we asked.
I agree.
I think we got way off on.
I think we did too. I think
on
we-
many. I truly do. I truly believe that if we really looked at where our authority ends and the things that we can look at and the things that we can request from that planning commission and include that with that conditional use. And I think most of the things, the concerns that we brought up prior to that were met and addressed by the company.
Where are they in writing? Where are they at? If we vote on them,
I
where are
completely
they at?
disagree with that
There's
statement.
nothing here, Ken.
You're free to disagree with it, that's okay.
I'm telling you, there's nothing
I have an
here.
opinion also, Charlie, and I'll put that out there, okay?
I,
You could agree all you want, disagree all you want.
Well, I'll tell you my reason why I voted no. In my early meetings with Scott from the company, he could never answer any of my questions, any of my technical questions, any of my safety issue questions, and that really concerned me. I had a retired firefighter, fire chief, send me an after-action report concerning an incident in Chattanooga, Arizona, so I read through the after-action report. Then I visited with the fire chief, and I visited with several other fire chiefs. And so I had real concerns about the safety of our first responders if they had to respond to an incident at this facility. And I also received numerous calls and in-person visits from my constituents and people from your district, your districts, saying, please don't vote for this project. I had no one before we voted say, we'd sure like to have you vote for this project. And since I have voted no for this project, I've gotten call after call after call thanking me for my vote. I got one call from an individual in my district that was very upset, and I just had to put up with listening to him because he was just going all over the place, but he had his opinion. But I am compelled to represent my district. And if my district says, no, we don't want this, then that's going to be my vote. But the big issue was with Scott he can never answer any questions. I have a little experience with green energy. I've had a wind turbine on my property for a number of years. It quit working, and they haven't been able to figure it out. But honestly, if I wouldn't have got the tax write-off to put it up, I wouldn't have put it up. Because in all those years, it was a waste of time. I got very little credit. And so I'm not a big fan of green energy. I tend to think a lot of times it's more political than it is actual economic. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. But like I say, if I would have had a representative from the company that actually could answer a lot of my questions, I might have gone the other way. But when my constituents said, please don't vote for that, then I did not vote for it. And I have a saying that I've used in life a long time. It may be illegal, but is it right? And I've used that in a lot of cases. There's a lot of things we can legally do, but are they right? And that's something we have to think about as county commissioners. There's a lot of things we can do that are legal, but are they right? That's all I gotta say.
I've just got a couple more items I wanted to go over. Kyle brought up fiscal responsibility, so I just wanted to talk about fiscal responsibility. He also brought up economic growth. So we can't have economic growth when the cost of electricity goes up, okay? We don't need people in poverty paying more for electricity. I don't need to be paying more for electricity. And I have been told by multiple public power districts that solar energy causes everyone else's electricity bill to go up. So if Kyle wants to talk about fiscal responsibility, the right message here is to deny the permit, okay? What happens when the sun shines? Federal government says that power districts must purchase solar energy. What does the coal company do? What does the coal power plant do when the sun is shining? They shoot the steam out of the side of the building. They bypass the turbines. They burn the same amount of coal, and there's no competition in the price. You have to buy solar. You have to. So solar can name their price. Okay? There's no competition. If we could say you can buy solar energy, or you can buy coal energy, or you can buy solar energy, that would drive the price down. That does not exist. So a couple weeks ago, when the gentleman called me a socialist for saying no to solar energy, we're actually saying no to socialist energy when we do this. You want to talk about economic growth? We're talking about, what they told us was 640 jobs out there for about 11 months. There's a project going in south of Cheyenne that's almost twice the size of this, and they're projecting 240 jobs for a project twice the size. So somewhere in here, Dunlay has got their numbers completely mixed up. The $800 million investment is probably closer to a $1.5 billion investment, and I just can't seem to understand why the president of the company that wants to invest $1.5 billion in a remote corner of Scotts Bluff County hasn't been here to talk to us. So just a huge question mark, okay? Fiscal responsibility, let's continue down that path. So Stiegel Road is about this thin, okay? 60 trucks a day for 11 months, all of them overweight. That road will look like the mall parking lot by the time this project is over, okay? They've told us that they're gonna fix the road. That's all they've told us. They didn't say, I remember a conversation with Scott, he said, we'll take before and after pictures, okay? When is that after picture gonna be taken? Is that after picture gonna be taken in December, 12 months, or, the month after they finish construction? Or are those pictures gonna be taken 3 years after we have 3 harsh winters, freezes and thaws that happen multiple times throughout every winter, okay? That road will be gone by the time this project is finished, or at least 3 years after this project is finished. So I got a couple quotes. I called around a couple different contracting companies, a couple different road superintendents from around the state. To rebuild Stiegel Road would be $1 million a mile. Okay, $1 million a mile. It's a 15-mile road. That's $15 million. I called the company that we often do work with when we bond projects. He told me, where did this go? He told me that the current interest rate is about 4.25%, 4.15. The bond payment on a project like that, for a $15 million project, a 20-year bond, which is the longest we can bond a project for, the bond payment would be around $1 million to $1.14 million a year. Okay, the county's revenue off of this project is less than $400,000 a year. It does not pencil, and I don't think Situla or Dunlay has the financial means to rebuild Stegall Road like they're telling us they're going to. I just don't see it. They also have to do $15 million of upgrades to the WAPA grid in order for this thing to take off. Okay. Dunlay has also told us they want to put shovels in the ground of December 2024. That is not possible. That is an impossibility. No investor will invest in this project anytime within the next 3 years, because WAPA's feasibility study says there's at least 3 more studies that must be completed before any investor would ever come in. The fellow I talked to that gave me this report, he said the environmental review study would take at least 2 to 3 years. Okay, so Dunlay claiming that they're going to put a shovel in the ground within 12 months is not realistic. One of those studies here that must be done, it's not the environmental study, but the first study of 3 that's listed in this feasibility study is called a TOT 3 or TOT 3 study. It's part of the transmission process, but there are 8 other studies in the queue that must be completed before this project has even begun to be studied. Okay, so we're looking at 3 years before the first of 3 additional studies gets underway. So Dunlay has not been forthcoming with their ideals or their goals or their intentions on this project. So I know we're talking about land use issues here. That's what a conditional use permit is generally about. But in the supplemental review that we got, there's a lot of talk in here about, when considering a conditional use permit, do we consider the morals and the I can't find it in my notes here, but there was a line in here about the morals and the mores of the constituency, and when you consider the fiscal responsibility, it is fiscally irresponsible and therefore morally irresponsible to say yes to this project. It would be morally irresponsible to rescind the decision to deny before we end our moratorium. That would be a backdoor for it, and that wouldn't be fair to anyone else who's been out there waiting for us to write our new regulations, publish them, and let this be available for everyone to apply for. So, I could go on and on here. The fact is, this isn't going anywhere tonight. There's going to be no motion to rescind, and there will be an extension of the moratorium, because honestly, this has taken up so much of our time that we haven't even begun to work on the new regulations that we want to put in place. So that's where I'm at. Unfortunately, here we are just a month down the road from a denial, and we haven't gotten any closer to updating our regulations, which need to happen for this moratorium to end. So that's where I'm at, and if you want any more explanation, I'm more than happy to keep going.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak before we move forward? Okay, it doesn't appear that we're going to have a motion to rescind, so we'll just move forward. Okay, next item. Under old business, clerk of the district court window remodel. Anything?
Yeah, it was in your, Jay had sent that out earlier today. They're waiting for some color changes or something. He asked to have it taken off, didn't he?
I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna get some speakers one of these days, some microphones one day, I guess.
Well, the speakers work when you use a microphone. Sorry.
Working just fine.
Speakers do, you're right. They will.
So
Said they're
we're
working just
still
fine.
working on the window remodel. Is that correct? Okay, we'll move on to time clock plus payroll process. Lisa, any update?
No.
Same thing.
Okay?
I guess my question would be, do we have a timeline on when to expect bi-monthly payroll?
No
I thought
earlier
we
than next
picked
year.
the beginning of next year, no matter what.
Yeah. I had an interesting thought that came up to me this weekend too. With time clock and bi-monthly payroll, or every other week.
Every other week.
We're looking at every other week more. I learned my son, who works for state of Nebraska, he's a salary employee, receives one time a month pay as salary employee. To which Charlotte was saying that we could probably split that out that way as well. Cause really, how do you do a salary in person 26 payrolls? I mean, you could, but just something to think about. Does everybody have to be bi-monthly? I think a lot of the people who are already your officials that are receiving salary pay, not hourly pay, would probably be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with mine. I don't expect no hourly pay. I don't think a lot of anybody does.
Or every
I think
other
it's
week.
our younger guys that are coming on, our younger people, our hourly people that work for the road and bridge. I think those are our people
Okay.
that really need to have the money
I
bi-weekly.
guess I would like an agenda item to where the board takes action on whether or not we want bi-monthly payroll. This back and forth, this push back and forth is just
Please pick bi-weekly.
Yeah,
bi-weekly.
Yeah.
yeah.
Twice a
Bi-week.
week. Every
Right.
2 weeks.
Every two,
Instead of
bi-weekly.
twice a month.
It's going to happen, it's just
Okay.
not right away.
Well,
Okay,
but we keep
well-
saying twice. I was fighting for Charlotte to make it easier to not have to switch our withholdings and stuff like that because of 24 versus 26. And she said it's a matter of a click in the setup of the employee. That is not her problem. And so I said, I'll back off. Sorry, I didn't understand. So I learned something there, and it's easier for her. And she said it would be actually more consistent for my office as well.
So
So-
I would like an action item next month to determine if we're gonna go bi-monthly,
Bi-weekly.
bi-weekly, or monthly. I think what we're lacking here is direction. And if we had some direction, we could move in that direction.
I agree.
Did you take any consideration to what our employees responded to that survey? Just throwing that out there. There was a survey that was sent.
I think we should take in all of that information when we discuss and
Okay,
consider
I'm
this.
just wondering if you saw that there was a survey taken.
Do you want this on June 17th or beginning of July?
Were the results made?
the next
'Cause I
one?
don't remember seeing
Oh,
them.
it was sent to everyone.
Was it? Okay, I'll go back and look. Probably my fault. Okay, we'll move on to public comments. The Board of Commissioners will receive public comments on items discussed at this meeting or suggestions for items of discussion at a future board meeting. The board will not take any action on the comments presented at this stage. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak? Mr. Bowman.
My name is Kim Bowman, and I live at 1755 19th Street in Gearing. And I see since the last meeting, commissioners meeting, nobody's resigned, so I guess we're just gonna have to go forward with whatever options we still may have. Mr. Knapper, I think you're still filibustering, what you did just to the attorney. Practice your Ernie Chambers back there. Anyway, that's all script. Another reason I'm here tonight is to ask if any of the 3 commissioners who voted against the solar farm development are ready to call for a new vote on the solar project and get this community moving forward. And I think you've already spoke, you're not at all interested. In case any of the commissioners are not aware of this, but Gearing already has a solar farm in place on East D, and a second solar farm is being developed and should be up and running by the end of '24. And it's gonna be shovel ready. They're gonna start digging shortly. It's gonna be up and running by December of '24. In this Lockwood, its location will be near U Street and Lockwood Road. It appears to me that if anybody would have a reason to be concerned about any solar farm issues, it would be the city of Gearing. It appears to me that the city of Gearing granted the proper permitting for these two projects without running these developers ragged with ridiculous requests and requirements. And I think you gentlemen that voted against it, throwing all the hurdles you can possibly dig up out of the trash. With this said, I'm again asking that the Scotts Bluff County Commissioners call for a new vote and approve the conditional use permit for the Situla Energy Project. Scotts Bluff County needs to show the public that it is a pro-growth, not a 19th century backwater county. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a minute. Kim,
Yes, sir.
known you for a long time. What's your plan to clean up these 6 sugar factories? Let me hear this.
Russ, I told you the other night, go to Great Western or Sugar, whatever it's called. That's not our problem.
It's not.
No, it's not our problem.
Okay.
If you want to make it a problem, go to the sugar company, ask them, condemn the property.
No, that's what I don't want the people down the road to do no more than I want to do this now. I want something on the front end of this thing so it's taken care of.
And they've agreed to do it, Russ.
Where's
And
it-
Hod
where's it
Cosman,
in-
I think, was here at one of the meetings and said, ask for a treasury then, if you don't trust the bonding company. And I think the company might concede. I don't know. I don't know their finances. But Hod had a reason for saying that. And I don't think there's probably anybody too much smarter with money than Hod.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But I think we're worried about, I agree, if you're worried about that, we should, and you're worried about the sugar company, take care of them first. Not
Well,
something.
see, I didn't have anything to do with it. We didn't allow that. But see, there's gonna be a group of people 40 years from now. None of us in this room will probably be here. Some of us might, but most of us won't. This thing needs to take care of itself automatically. It shouldn't even be a question. When it shuts down, that it would be taken care of.
I think that's just like asking anybody in the county, when you die, make sure your trash is cleaned up in the backyard. We can't do that. We're not zoned that way.
Somebody will do it. I mean, there's somebody there to do that. That's what it's supposed to
But
be.
you're
Somebody is
making
supposed
this
to be there
just-
to
you're
do that,
throwing
to
hurdles at
sell
these
that
people.
house. You're gonna come along and sell that house. People are gonna clean that up, and you're gonna see that that trash is cleaned up. You've done it before.
Sure, but the price is reflective.
That's what I'm getting at. That's where I'm going right now. I guarantee it's reflective, and I don't want these people to pay for it.
I think Situla's agreed to put up a bond or whatever, and I think
Well-
Hod said treasury, and I think
I know, but
they
we don't-
kind of agreed that they would do that. I
They're-
can't speak for that company.
Sure, but there's nothing in writing, and that's where we're at. We need to get some policy, because when this moratorium comes off, there might be more people wanting to come in and do the same thing. And when they do, we've gotta have a few things in place, and I'm not asking for the world. I just wanna know where we're going.
You think, I mean, I guess I'm just asking, do you think the city of Gearing did this lightly? They got after it.
Those little tiny things out there, I'm talking about, what do you say, $1.3 billion project is what it's gonna actually become?
Talking about 600,000 panels.
660,000 panels.
I mean, it's just a bigger number.
Yeah, and when you take a dump truck out there, when you look around, it's gonna be a way big number when you start hauling that to town. I've cleaned up little projects, but I can't even imagine, you know?
Well, I just think we're showing the public that, hey, don't come to Scotts Bluff County because we don't want anything new. We just want to die in the vine. We're 36,000 people. After like World War II, it was 36,000, and here we still are. And a lot of us, we don't want anything new. We shot down a packing house. I think anything new, we just find a way to get rid of it. So here's something clean. You guys may disagree. They're not asking for any money from the county.
I agree.
So a lot of people do ask the county for money to bring projects here. They're not asking for anything. They're just asking for a permit.
I agree. But there's some things that I think we have responsibility as commissioners to do, to get in place to be sure that are correct before we pull the trigger. And we're just asking for the time to do that.
But why can't you, if that's a conditional use, put that as your condition to see if they agree to it?
That's where Mr. Harris explained it really well. We need an attorney to direct us, to get our policies in place so they work for everyone, so we don't have a policy for these folks, and then the next person comes in and we write a policy. I don't wanna go through this again. I would like to have it so the next, if they come in with wind, or they come in with I don't care what it is, solar or hydrogen, I don't care what they come in with. If it's green energy, I'm happy for them. Once we get some things in place, I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
Well, hopefully, the board then, if that's the way they're gonna go, talk to the city of Gearing. They're taking risk.
Well, they have little tiny projects. I can send 3 trucks down and clean that all up in an afternoon, not 660,000 panels.
Well, I just suggest you talk to the city of Gearing for about some progression.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
I would like to thank
I
the
need your name.
commissioners. Larry Bear, 15 Brentwood Court.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the three commissioners for looking out for us, for especially you, Charlie, for all you delved into this and researched it. I think it was a really bad deal. These guys come in here and they give you references. Here's all our references. You check them out and nobody's heard of them. That, to me, is a huge red flag on a $1 billion project. When it comes to decommissioning, all you gotta do is take a drive from San Francisco to Yosemite across the Sierra Nevadas, and there's windmills laying on the ground in some form of disrepair that were built in the 70s, littered all over the ground, just destroyed the appearance of a mountainside. So if that's what you want out there, that's what you'll wind up with. Like Russ says, you ain't gonna clean this up with a couple dump trucks. So make sure, and Hod said, make sure you got the money coming in on a 5-year basis to clean this mess up. But I really appreciate you guys, what you did here. It's not easy taking the heat, and I think you should be complimented. The newspaper give you a horrible black eye about filibustering. To my way of thinking, Ken and Mark did way more filibustering at that meeting after a motion was made than any of you guys did.
Hello, I'm Kelly Sandberg. I live at 1755 Beverly Boulevard in Gearing. And I just want to say I'm in favor of the project. And I just want us to think about it, just open our minds a little bit. But I am pro Preston's. I've done business with 3 generations of Preston's. Are you the 4th generation ranch farmer? Beat that, I guess. My only thing is, as a citizen, and it's a very complicated thing. You're exactly right, and I don't disagree with any of that. But what I want us to do is maybe open our minds, and I know we need something besides property tax. I am a property owner, and I would like something besides property tax, and probably everybody in here is the same. But, you know, we could be looking at something that is into the future that might just be the thing. I mean, I'm sure, I was trying to decide how to say this, but I'm sure Harvey Firestone, when he built the first rubber tire, when it went flat, all of the steel wheel manufacturers were saying, oh yeah, look at that, look at that. Well, fast forward 124 years, 'cause it was the early 1900s, I looked before I came. But now look at anything that is not on rubber tire. And not to say this is gonna be the same thing, but it might be the thing of the future, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to open our minds to it. The only thing I can tell you, and I've rented some of my land out in Banner County for wind energy, and they have some decommissioning stuff in their contracts, and I can't tell you what that is, but maybe that's something we can look at.
That would be somewhere to start.
And, yeah,
And that's all
anyhow,
we're asking for here.
yeah, and I just wanted to tell you that I'm for the project, and I think it may be a good opportunity for tax revenue. It's a very complicated thing, but thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Casey Davis, 60512 County Road P, Lyman. I wanted to thank the commissioners for denying the conditional use permit and standing firm in that. I would like to reiterate that the size of the project is the size of 3,212 football fields. I don't think that the projects in Gearing are that size, and that we need regulations to cover these. Because we haven't had anything like this in this county, and we need to be prepared because there are other companies coming down the pike. I know that there are other companies tying up land out there where I live. I know that my other neighbors have already leased their land to other solar companies. My husband and I were contacted about that because we sit right in the middle of the area. And after much discussion and thought and reviewing their contract, we decided to not do that. Why? Because that is where we are building our life, where we are raising our children, and where we want to spend the rest of our life. Not in the middle of an industrial park. It is our home, and that is where we want to be. And we want it to be there for the next generation, not in the middle of a solar farm. And I would also like to say, in support of what Commissioner Knapper has said, that other states are pulling back on their targets for solar mandates because they're too costly and produce few benefits. The Arizona Corporation Commission, in an article published April 3rd, 2024, says they have voted to pull back on their targets. In February, the Arizona Corporation Commission, which oversees the state's utility services, voted 4-1 to direct staff to draft an order eliminating Arizona's renewable energy standard and tariff, which functions as a state renewable portfolio standard. They go on to say, despite all of the wind and solar farms built, carbon intensity, a measure of carbon dioxide emissions per kilowatt hour generated, has remained unchanged since at least 2011. At the same time, the higher costs of wind and solar, along with their intermittent energy production, have caused rates to climb for customers. States with wind and solar mandates are starting to feel the sticker shock of their misguided policies, which is why we need to have regulations in place before we allow this into our county. It also goes on to say that recent studies and observations show that wind and solar power fall short of several promises. They never come close to delivering the amount of power promised and don't last as long as promised. A typical solar farm lasts about 10 years. Manufacturers of the equipment that were supposed to maintain them have gone out of business. And many of the problems with the short lifespan of wind and solar come from being out in the extreme wind, rain, sun, heat, and cold, and even hailstorms. I would like you to consider that as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else?
Kim Johns, 120641 County Road 17, Mitchell. I'm not speaking in regard to the project, and so maybe I don't know if this is legal or not.
No,
but
no.
Charlie referenced the Stiegel Road, and I remember sitting in meetings here, several meetings with discussions about how to handle resurfacing that, going back and forth about the life expectancy of that particular project. I travel that road frequently, and I just was curious if any of you have been up and down it, and if you feel that road is going to hold up as you were led to believe. I think there was discussion between what a recommendation was from someone else. So I just was curious what your viewpoint is on your decision, and if you feel like we're on track to meet what you told our group that road would be.
I'm gonna refer to Russ.
Yeah.
We do have some updates on it, so.
Yeah, the north 2 miles or 1 3/4 miles is gonna be resurfaced. They milled it last year and they were gonna do a chip seal on it. And when they milled it, it was rougher than they thought, but they were already committed. They didn't have asphalt bid on the project. This next spring or maybe even this fall, depending on what our budgets look like, it will be remilled and resurfaced on that top 2 miles. The rest of the road is holding up fine. I don't know, have you been out and, I've walked it. I get out and walk it regular, and I'm saying the road's holding up fine.
So the part that you're doing.
I can't hear you, ma'am.
The part that you say you're redoing was done initially?
They did it last year. They did the top 2 miles and north 2 miles, north 1 3/4 miles.
Right. And
That's
now we're
really,
having to redo it?
yes, because what they had planned, they were gonna do a light mill and then just a chip seal. Well, once they milled it, there was pockets that weren't repairable.
Right.
And so it's gonna have to be lightly milled again, and they're gonna do an overlay like they did on Highland Road for those first 2 miles.
Right. You know, it's just, you drive Scotts Bluff County side of it, and then you hit Banner County, and it's totally different. And I know nothing about roads, but I was just curious, because I was part of that, you know, or I listened to the discussion. If you feel like your value for the money spent
Well,
met your
let me
expectation.
explain to you, had we have went with the other plan, it would have probably been another 4 to 5 years before we would have got past 5 miles. We've accomplished 14 miles of repair on that road right now. We would probably be at about 6 or 7 miles had that not been pulled, if we hadn't have pulled that mat out of there.
I was just curious. I'm not
Yeah.
an
Oh, no,
expert.
I'm just saying.
I'm just the little lady that drives
Oh,
the darn road.
and I
Kim?
appreciate your input.
Kim, you referenced the south side of Stegall. Banner County did that on a grant, and were able to spend quite a
Right.
bit more money than
Right.
what we
Right.
did.
Well,
I don't know the
I'm
big
just
differences,
hoping
yeah.
that you look back and review what
Yeah.
was done, how it held up, and if your decision was the right decision. That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
and I agree.
I don't know anything more about it.
We hope so.
Just one more second. I wanted to mention one more thing. We have 168 miles of paved, is that not correct? 168 miles of paved asphalt, either concrete or asphalt. Those 4 miles that you see Banner County has, that is all the asphalt that they redo, and that's all they own in
Right,
Banner County.
right.
They own 4 miles.
Right.
If we had 4 miles of asphalt, we could do a bang-up
Yep.
job.
Yep.
We'd have
I mean,
12 inches of
I'm
we'd have
just,
12
like I
inches
say,
of
just
concrete.
wanted
We could, I
clarification.
mean, there'd be no end to it. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Terry.
I just wanted to clarify that a few years ago, the section that was under discussion for many meetings in a row, that part is still holding up. Is that correct?
That's
The
right.
part where we decided to not do the fiber mat, we did
Right.
something else. The part that is not holding up right now is a section that was done at the end of last summer, which did not get the same product that we decided to do a couple years ago. It was just a mill and then a chip seal. But the portion of the southern portion, which was the topic of much debate, is still holding up.
Is that not right? Can you speak on that? You know, that's in your district, is it not? Can you come up here and talk on that? This is Skylar Mount. He's one of our foremen from Scotts Bluff County.
So yes, the south section of the 14 miles, I believe, is what got done. That is holding up. It's the 2 north miles south of Highway 92 that we milled and did the chip seal. And like Russ said, it had unrepairable potholes even after we milled the inch off of it. So hopefully that could be something done to that, to where we can get new surface on that.
Steve was doing I don't know if you call it an experiment or a trial. He wanted to do a trial because we have so many miles to address that we were looking for an economical way to do it, and we thought if we could do a light mill, that it would work in a lot of other places. And what we were trying to do on that 2 miles was establish a value of what it would cost to do that, and maybe we're doing between 15 and 18 miles of repair every year for the last 4 years, 3.5 years I've been on this board. We've done consistently. We're gonna get 20 miles done this year because of Highland Road. We're gonna do 18 miles of chip seal plus 2 miles of overlays, mill and overlays. But we were looking for an economical way, and Steve asked me if he thought we could try that, and I said, well, you know, whatever you can do if we can save some money and we can get some roads covered, I really assumed the milling was gonna help. But we got down into some stuff that was so bad down there, it needed the overlay. And by then, it was the wrong time to make the call because you can't just order asphalt that day, so we had to continue with our plan. And it was the right call for what we did. We know for sure now that we're not gonna be doing a lot of that, but we're gonna stay with the chip seal. We're gonna do as much chip seal because it does waterproof the roads, and it does a lot of good for us.
It was nice for a while. For a while. Yeah. All right, anybody else?
Vicky Stoll, 130610, County Road, Mitchell. And I just wanted to thank the 3 commissioners for voting no against this. The articles that I have read, and I wish I would have kept them, that just shows it's not a viable or profitable in the long haul for solar farms and for the wind turbines. And I just wanted to thank you again for taking the time to really look into it. And again, knowing that now you need to look at policies and come up with something that will work for all. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me comment on that just a second, and I'll just tell you, I mentioned before, and I'll say it again, and that's that, I'm not a believer in the green energy process. I'm not a believer in that. I think it's, it only works because it's federally subsidized, and it would never work otherwise, and I'm not sure it'll work for a 20 and 30 and 40 year period. But, it's, that may cause a quicker demise of the project, but if that's the case, that's why the decommissioning process is so important, so that no matter when it is, whether it's someone suggested 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40, 50, or whenever it is, that decommissioning process and the funding of that is important. But I'm not a proponent of the green energy solar project. I'm not specifically for that. I am willing, if it was not a solar project, but some other kind of industrial economic development project, unless it severely affected the residents and the of the county, I'd be in favor of it too. But whether or not this is gonna work, whether or not the green part of this is appropriate for us, I'm not trying to make that decision. And I know Charlie has or is and feels that that's part of it, and I'm okay with that. You know, I've say many times, these guys get to hear me say it, but you don't get to hear me say it very often. And that's that I like it when we don't have a 5-0 vote. I like it when we have differences of opinions, and I'm not on their side in this case, but I'm not a proponent of green energy, whether it be wind turbines or the solar panels or whatever. I'm not for that. That's not what I'm voting for. I'm voting for economic development. That's what I'm voting for. So anyway, I just wanted to be sure we understood that, because I'm not on the side of green energy. Okay?
And I would agree with Mr. Harris. I'm not either. I don't own an electric car. I don't have an electric golf cart. I would rather you put a half a dozen oil wells out on that property, to be real honest with you. I don't like what I hear about green energy. I don't like anything about it. But that doesn't give me the authority to stop somebody else from believing in it and do what they think is right, just because I don't agree with it. And that's my stand on it. Anybody else wish to speak to the commissioners? Okay, if not, we'll move on to board and staff reports. Start with the board. Russ, do you have anything?
I pretty much covered roads.
Okay. Mike?
I had the extension office meeting down in Bridgeport this last week, and then I have a 911 interlock, emergency management, I should say Region 22 interlock meeting Thursday, and that's about it for this week. Oh, I did 2 welfare checks at their Scotts Bluff County Detention Center, and that was positive, so.
Okay, all of my meetings have been moved because of the NACO meeting, so I won't have anything to report for. I do have a Kaplan meeting tomorrow night, but other than that, all all my committee meetings will be in 2 weeks.
You have regional governance Wednesday night.
And that's
at
what I
noon.
said, I have regional governance on Wednesday also.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah, you did hear that. You were correct with that. I did say that. And it's a good thing that she sends reminders, cause I'd be eating lunch at Arby's or something.
Boy, it's good. I'm glad you said that.
My memory's about as long as,
Well,
it's terrible.
I tell you what, it gets that way. The more that
Yeah.
you fill it with cobwebs, it seems.
Okay, Mark?
I was, out of town most of last week. I did not have meetings scheduled. Towards the end of the month is when I have the least amount of meetings scheduled, but we'll have several next week that are in order.
Okay, Charlie?
Yeah, I just kinda wanted to fill you guys in on the tourism thing and the Five Rocks Amphitheater project. Kinda talked about a little bit about that, at the beginning of the meeting. So I don't know if you guys have any more questions or kinda where I stand on the project, or if maybe you guys could fill me in on where you guys stand on the project. I am in favor of the project. You know, talking to some hotel owners and talking to some other industry people, and also the Gearing City Council members that I talked to, the city engineer, the mayor, the Scotts Bluff city manager. You know, everyone seems to believe that Five Rocks Amphitheater is a very important facility in our area. I guess, you know, to be quite honest, when the application first came in front of us, I was a little offended that a entity that already imposes a lodging tax would come and ask us for our lodging tax. But I worked through that. I kinda came around to, you know, seeing the importance of the facility, and the folks in Scotts Bluff that are paying this lodging tax, they don't have a problem paying for upgrades over there. So I felt that was a positive, and then you know, really working through that, and you know, utilizing the political process and the communication, I think was really insightful. So I did tell some people on Gearing City Council that I would more than, and staff at Gearing, I did tell them that I would be more than welcoming of another application. And I wanna tell you guys I know there were some strong feelings about the, you know, private donations going to that project. I've backed away from that stance in that, that's not part of the application process. And so, if it's not in the application process, I don't wanna make it a final hurdle here. If we wanna change the application process, that's something we should work on, but rather not, add that hurdle at the last step. Ken gave a good point, you know, a lot of the, events that happen out there are put on by private entities, and private organizations, and so their dollars are already going into the facility, through rent and that sort of stuff, and the fact that they use it is their proof that they believe in the facility. So anyway, I know there are some really ruffled feathers at the, across the area that we tabled this, and I just kinda wanted to work through it, tell you guys where I was in the process of working through it. You know, my goal for tourism is to fill the hotel rooms 12 months out of the year, 52 weeks out of the year. And Five Rocks is one way to achieve that. So, and like I said, I got a niece that has special needs, and I talked to my sister, and, you know, it was very important, you know, and helped me through the decision-making process, so, that's where I'm at with it.
One of the comments that were made about, from City of Gearing, the project is over $200,000, and they were already committed the remainder over the 100,000. So they were buying into it, all they were asking, and we've done that with other entities the zoo. I hate to keep bringing up the zoo, but we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on the zoo to enhance that project out there. So that's where I was with it. But, all right, anybody else?
I'll just mention, this sheet, and, Linda,
Brenda.
Yeah, you may have been the one that forwarded us this information, and that was good for me to help understand where the monies have went for the last 6, 7, 8 years. And where money's been spent on both events and then the, capital improvement things. And that was helpful to me to understand it a little better.
Okay. Move to staff. Lisa, start with you. Anything?
Yeah, I have a couple things. First off, we bought these mics in 2023. If you speak into them, we spent over $200 a piece for them. If you talk like this, we can't hear you. If you get yourself up to them, you can be heard. But if standing back, you won't. Is that going to be a problem for you to set up?
I think it is a problem. As we saw when Skylar came to the mic, he would have to stoop down about 50% of his height to get to that microphone. And there are microphones out there that are called directional microphones.
Multi-directional.
Multi-directional.
Which they can hear me, right, folks? You can hear me. Can you hear Charlie?
So my point is, when Skylar was at the mic, I don't want to expect someone who's 6'5" to have to stoop to speak into the microphone. There are solutions out there. I guess I'll tell you what. Go back to my board report. I'll go back to where this is coming from. So, several meetings ago, we took action to hold all public meetings in this room. That includes tourism, county health board if we still had it. What are the other public meetings we
Planning
have?
Commission.
Planning Commission. That all of those meetings would be held in this room, recorded instantly, automatically, or as automatically as possible, hopefully with just a click of a button, and then uploaded to the internet automatically with just a click of a button. With this solution would also make the room ADA accessible for the hearing impaired, and there are some upgrades to this room that need to happen. I reached out, so after we took that vote, we took that action to make that the goal going forward. I reached out to Bytes for a solution. Bytes told me that the aging office has recently done this with a company called High Country Low Voltage out of the Front Range, and they've got a meeting room similar to this that is just decked out to the nines with the most appropriate technology. So I said, okay, get us a bid for what that would take, and bid came back $63,000. Okay, I said, hold on a minute, like that's way too much. So I went through the spec sheet, and I said, okay, they had that room and this room as two separate rooms that needed to go at different times. So, and then I said, okay, well, what about the mics? What about the the TVs we already have? And we got that down from $63,000 to $41,000. Oh, sorry, it was $61,000. I got it down to $43,000. And then I noticed that the mics on the bid were the same brand as these, and so I said, hey, can we still use our mics? They're the same brand. They said, yeah, get me the name and make and model from the base of the mic, and we'll see if those work. So while I'm working on getting that information, I learned that during COVID, when we put these cameras in here, we updated the mics. I knew that we had updated the mics because I remember coming in here and seeing new mics on my table. So I thought, okay, we got new mics. I did not, at that time, I was not told that we replaced the speakers in the ceiling. We replaced the soundboard in the back room. And none of those things have been optimized since their installation. So
I think that's the same equipment I've worked with ever since I started, that board in there.
Okay, well, I was told it was replaced.
It came in 2020 or 2021,
This
shortly
board?
after. I
So-
haven't found the receipt, so. I guess I
Without
don't
going
know.
off on a side tangent here, the solution that we need to be ADA compliant and to upload these meetings to online for the public to be able to go there instantly. They don't gotta wait till Wednesday for this meeting to go onto YouTube or, you know, it'll happen immediately. It's gonna take a bit of money to get this done. And what they did was when they bought these mics and this solution and these speakers, you know, they spent $2,500. That's like going to buy a Corolla when you need to run in the Indy 500. It's not gonna get the job done. And so I'm a little frustrated that all of these solutions were put into place, all this hardware was put into place without our knowledge or
You were,
I
that's
guess-
about the same time we put that screen
yeah,
up.
so we put the screens up at the same time. So, but here we have a solution that's been in place for 3 years now, and we still have this feedback and we still have this hum. Not once has Crossroads been asked to come back and fine tune the system. From what I understand, the system was tested in the middle of the afternoon during a elected officials meeting when it's a much different environment than what we have right now. So I'm frustrated that we haven't, again, I think we're using, this is kinda like the Time Clock Plus system where we have a solution that was purchased and not being tuned to its best ability. It's not the solution that we need to get, to be ADA compliant, to have the immediate upload and recording and all that kind of stuff. So I would like to be able to move forward with this project. You know, we took the motion to do this. I don't wanna put a product up online that's gonna make people wonder, well, what the heck are they saying? I can't even hear them. Why are they even bothering with the upload of this meeting if I can't even hear them? So those are some of my concerns, and I think this is a solution that we need to pursue. It'll work into the next budget cycle, you know, with budget time coming up. But this was a big project that we started 3 weeks ago. I've asked Bites to do the bidding, and I've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb multiple times to find $20,000 worth of savings. I think we probably have another $4,000 to $8,000 of savings that we can realize, knowing that the speakers are new. I think we still need a multi-directional ceiling mic, and I believe these need to be moved into multi-directional mics. I think we're close, but you know, we really need to dial in the solutions that we spend money on. We can't be putting solutions into place and not utilizing them to their fullest potential. And I've seen it a couple times now, and it's just frustrating.
I sat on the board for the agent office. I don't know if there's any microphones in that room. There are none, unless there's something,
They're ceiling mics.
okay, and that was unbeknownst to me, but
How do those work? Do they work all right?
Yeah.
They've only had a meeting or two, right? They just moved.
we've only had one meeting in the new building.
Oh, so they don't even know quite how it all works yet.
I don't know.
I would suggest this, and that's that, what I've recognized is that there is no one responsible or in charge of what happens with our sound system. Kelly does the best she can to turn it on and turn it off and adjust it slightly. I'm concerned that it might take a tech person at a meeting, especially if we're talking audio and video, that it may take a person being here to help run that, and then who is that? Jay's been part of this during part of it, Bites has been part of it, Kelly may have been part of it, but I don't think anyone has been assigned the specific project and say, we want you to be responsible for this, not only the purchasing of the equipment, but making sure that it works and operates every single time. And that's a commitment too, because it may be that the hardware part of this is the inexpensive part, and having a staff person running it on a continual basis for every meeting may be, well, ultimately it'll be a bigger expense than the actual hardware. I know some of this stuff can, can be done remotely. TCD's system is a pretty elaborate system with cameras that track who's talking and things like that, and they spent quite a bit of money with their system we could look at. I think Bytes was part of that, but I'm interested in having the meetings available to the public. That's my goal, is that it could be available to the public, and if it's available immediately, live, that's great, or shortly thereafter, where they could access it online. And you mentioned something again, and that's that possibly that be stored, whether it be on the cloud or wherever, where it could be accessed for several years out, possibly. And I like that idea, but that project and that process, to me, doesn't really fit under Kelly's part of her job, and it doesn't really fit under Lisa's part of the job. They've both been a little bit a part of it. But I think we as the commissioners, and I don't mean tonight, but we as the commissioners need to decide who's gonna be the guy that, or the gal that takes the bull by the horns, and this is their project. And then it's their project, and they see that it gets done, and that when we have meetings, they know that it's getting done and being done. But I'm afraid we're gonna do that. We can't just let it be, or hope people show up to help turn on the system and things. Because if it's a small meeting, such as maybe the planning commission or others, we don't have people here, I don't think, that turns it on and off.
That's right.
I would
So-
imagine Bill does it if
Yeah,
he
he
uses
does.
it.
Right.
Yeah, the
So-
person using it should be
yeah.
plug and play.
So, I just mentioned that, and it may need to be that we get someone on staff to be kind of the person in charge of the project, and then go from there. But I don't disagree with doing it. Only, again, what I want is the public to have more access to what we're doing, and I think that's always a good idea.
Okay. At this point, to our knowledge, it has been working until more people started showing up and even talking to all of you that there's a problem. Really, it wasn't mentioned before. They are, the commissioner meetings are out there the next day.
Typically.
Which
Typically.
ones?
Typically,
What
all
you,
of
today's will be out there tomorrow, typically.
Starting at January of 2023, they're on the YouTube channel.
So, they've been there.
Good.
So,
But
to our knowledge.
John is the person that loads it for us the next day.
I did have a recent email that said that they do watch it on YouTube, and for the most part, they can hear us, not always, but never someone in the back.
Yeah, we've got to stop
they
letting
gotta
people
come to the
talk from the back
microphone.
of the room.
Yeah, they have to come up here.
Right.
But I mean, like, this microphone compared to mine, that's like mine, so it's a short one. We could have
We can put a tall one there.
get a taller
Or
one,
could
cause
trade
this
mine.
plugs in, and I think that one plugs into the that white
Yeah.
box that's in front of the podium there.
Right.
And maybe a directional mic for the podium
Yeah.
for just what you're talking
Well,
about.
cause if you're too short or too tall, you can't.
Make it flexible enough
Yeah.
that you can use it.
I'm trying to think of who spoke into it the other day, and it was like just right
Yeah.
to you guys. Do you
No,
remember?
I don't remember. I
It-
guess I
when-
could asking for your guys' blessing to move forward with the project and work with Bites. We're at $23,000 right now. I think I can get it down another $5,000 or $6,000 by the time we're done with this.
23 or 43?
I thought you were at 43.
I'm sorry. What did I? Okay,
You said 20.
the
Just
original
now.
bid was 61,000. I got it down to 43,000. I think I can get another 5 or 6 off of it.
Okay.
So,
Personally, I think you should go through the budget process.
well, I mean, the solution will be, I mean, I'll continue to move this through, and it'll have to be approved in the Bites contract when we do Bites and technology at budget time.
Well, it's, no matter what, it's gonna end up, in next year's expenses, it
Mostly,
seems.
yeah. Yeah.
So we still have the time to
Still got time to
include it in the
negotiate, get
budget
us a good
somewhere.
number.
I guess I'm trying to figure out, where does it fit in the budget? Does it go to Bites, portion or someplace else, but,
It might have to come out of, maybe it should come out of commissioners.
I was gonna
Maybe
say-
we build it into the commissioner's budget because this is the commissioner's room. I know other entities are gonna be using it, maybe planning commission, maybe we break part of it out to be charged for planning commission, part of it charged to tourism. You know, it's a solution that everyone's gonna use.
Have it be a perk to using Scotts Bluff County Commissioner's room.
Okay, Lisa,
Yeah.
do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to, make you aware, next meeting, it'll be my show. We have audit coming, Kevin Sylvester will be here. RCI will be here with, talking about our health insurance. We have to sign on to something before the end of our fiscal year, and they're just getting quotes. We've had large health claims this year. We are not getting quotes like we had the last few years. So there'll be some decisions that we have to make with them. And if you need a tutorial ahead of time, please come talk to me and I can talk you through it, cause I don't wanna have a concern where I'll send you out as much as I can ahead of time so you can review, so you won't be like blasted, but we have one more meeting with the insurance committee where they're getting us some more quotes, because not too many people are wanting to quote Scotts Bluff County this year because of our high claims. So that and budget adjustments, I'm looking, Kelly's office is finalizing May along with Heather's office to see exactly which budgets we're gonna need some adjustments on. I think there's at least 3. So be prepared for that. And yeah, that's about it.
Where we at on the, public defender application? Have you got any
I did, we did
application
get one app for the public defender,
We did get one.
Mike Meister,
Mike Meister.
How long is it open?
June 30. Or
30?
that one was until filled. It was the emergency manager until June 30, I believe, or vice versa.
Okay. Gene, you sit on this side, anything? Kirk?
Oh my.
Just a couple things, when it comes to budgeting. We have been reimbursed finally through January. February's been submitted, so we're catching up, so hopefully Heather can get that money back in the Keno fund that we did have to borrow. They hired their own auditor for NDOT Transit, so it seems to be streamlining the process a little bit, plus their requirements are now a little more clear, so, through working with Heather and Kelly's office, we're hopefully gonna streamline that process. And we have a training coming up in August in Lincoln, at which time they're gonna review the process and the procedures, and we're gonna hopefully have a little pushback on it for some documentation they're asking for that really is proves nothing, quite honestly. Showing mass deposits into the local account that don't itemize it by department, so it really proves nothing, but they still want it. So we're still fighting that as a group. All transit managers have kind of filled out a survey we're gonna go to the state with on that. Going back to pay periods, with Charlie wanting to get this done. Personally, for me, I'm probably the odd man out here, but because of our reimbursement process and the way our invoices are submitted to the state, I would prefer bi-monthly versus bi-weekly, so I don't have a pay period overlapping a month or a fiscal year. But if that's what is decided upon, we'll figure a workaround on that.
You want
May
pay every 2
delay
months?
reimbursement on payroll for a part of the payroll at least for another month, but I'm sure there's a workaround. It would just be easier if it was bi-monthly for me, so I'm being selfish there. I'm speaking with Nirma on the insurance. One thing I just thought of as we're discussing, and I'm not sure if Nirma's even aware of the required trainings that our staff has to do. So I think I'll visit with Lisa and we can talk with Nirma and see that may or may not give us any savings if they're aware of what we are required as training for transit agencies as far as defensive driving and the types of classes that we are required to take on an annual basis. Fueling facility quick update. We had some logistical issues with scheduling between Jay and myself and the gentleman that was going to go over the software. That is rescheduled for June 13th. Trying to get that software training so we can get up and running. And I did also visit with Jay on this for the next fiscal year. Because of that facility and needing to have the access to that, budgeting for some funds to get the old generator from here out there connected and working so that fueling facility is available in the event of power outage. And give us some emergency power for roads department, my department, and a little bit in the bus barn so we can get vehicles in and out. And one of the things we brought up at the elected and appointed officials meeting that, again, Lisa and I'll probably discuss when we may look at doing a resolution is a possible fuel surcharge per gallon for every department to build a sinking fund to take care of ongoing maintenance and upkeep of that facility. Set up a separate fund that goes into, and we thought about maybe doing it on an annual basis, see where that budget's at, how much money's in that, and then if we feel we need to build it more, keep it going, maybe reduce it a penny, maybe take it off for a year, but allow us to build a fund. So if a pump goes out or we have repairs, we have to upgrade software or something, we don't have to come up with a budget item for it. It's a sinking fund already built in, and those of us who use more fuel, we're going to pay a higher percent of that. Just an idea. We had to keep that facility up in good working condition in perpetuity. The other thing I am looking at budget time, I'm working with the state right now to find out what it would take to expand our demand response hours. That's our curb to curb service to align with our fixed route service. Again, that would allow us to do some additional work, medical trips earlier in the morning, later in the evening, pick up that last flight in from the airport, accommodate residents to their homes, visitors to their hotels and lodging, trying to build it into the budget. And I think we can do that with little or no additional expense. I am working on the logistics and the procedures for that with the state, if there's any public hearings necessary, anything like that, just to make sure we check all those boxes before we actually look at doing that and getting it as part of our new operating hours. And other than that, if you have any questions for me, holler at me anytime.
Good, thank you, Kurt. Heather, anything? No. Robert?
Can I make one more comment, please? I had one of the guys that lives up west of Morrill, a friend of mine, went out to spray his bar pits the other day, wanted to kill his thistle. And he called me and he said, "What's the county doing?" He said, "All of my thistle's dead in my bar pit." Steve's had guys out spraying for 3 weeks. They've got everything in the western end of the county sprayed, which is unheard of because everybody up there, they've been spraying their own bar pit. So he's really being proactive and things are really working out well for what they're doing. He's got 2 guys out spraying. So I mean, the guy called me and he was just teasing, but he said, "I haven't ever had the county spray this bar pit before." He said, "I went out to spray my thistle and it's all dead." He was pretty tickled.
Where did we leave off? Kelly, anything?
I'll be at workshop next week. I'm leaving Tuesday, but you guys have, there's budget workshop and county board workshop next week as well. If anybody was planning on attending, I was just gonna remind you, starts on, looks like June 12th, county board. What day's the budget?
Wednesday. Wednesday morning,
Wednesday, Thursday.
just the budget piece.
Oh, just the-
Yeah, cause my workshop starts at noon, but I was planning on going to the budget. Are you going to budget workshop? Okay,
I should, but it's only for 4 hours.
anyway, that's all,
Okay.
I just to remind
Anything
you.
else?
We got through canvassing board is, recessed now till the general election.
All right. Anything on legislation? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Robert, you're gonna earn your salary this month.
I'm earning mine already.
I heard that the notices went out,
I got a really
and those
good
are notices for, valuation change.
Yeah.
Do you know what they look different?
I just,
Okay, I was like,
The newspaper on Saturday.
oh, by the way,